Yeah, it won't be as big as it was. And we're in.
Hey.
I suspect the music is fading out because Harry will have done that in the mix. So
There it goes.
therefore, there it goes. Welcome everyone into the Counters In podcast. Thanks again for joining us for episode 45, which we were just saying, Harry's got
Jeez.
quite a nice ring to it, isn't it? 45.
Mm.
It's good. I am here as ever. My name is Matt Lacey. I am joined this week as ever by my co-host Harry Sermon.
Hello. Hello,
Hello.
everyone.
How you doing,
Episode
mate? Okay?
45.
Episode
Yeah, well.
We're good.
Yeah, man.
But
See ya.
but actually, unlike normal, we are not
Previous 45 episodes. Sorry.
Yeah, the previous 44 episodes. Yeah, we are not joined by Mr. Jamie Joyner.
Sadly not. Not today.
Sadly not. We are flying as a duo this evening. We have all had quite busy schedules, and Jamie is, if you follow him on his Instagram travels, he is out of the country over in China working for rock school, and he's out there for a month. And we couldn't get enough episodes recorded. We did try to get our diaries all to kind of line up, but it was just not happening to get enough of a backlog of episodes recorded so that we wouldn't miss Jamie. But despite our best efforts, Jamie has disappeared for a month. I think he went the 22nd of November, and he's back on the 20th of December.
Yeah, so he went a while ago. I think he went the weekend that the last episode came out, or sort of in between. We did have to record that in advance, peeps. We do apologise. Like we said, we've been busy.
Yeah, we've all had kind of bits on and concerts and gigs and teaching and etc. So and other kind of little projects and stuff. So it is just myself and Harry tonight. So apologies if you've joined us because you're a big fan of Jamie.
Yeah, you might. But he will be
back.
One.
He will be back. It's just the two of us waffling on for a little bit now. We'll start with our kind of little what's new feature, Harry, and you've got some new kind of news bits and stuff you want to share with us. So get stuck in, man. Let's get into it.
Yeah, well, I think we both got a few things.
A couple of little
to
bits,
mention, which would be nice. Something new. That very weekend that Jamie departed for China, I had the pleasure of going to see one of my favourite bands. Have been high on the bucket list for a long time. Butcher Brown in London, Jazz Cafe, sold out show. That was on the 23rd of November, and it was wicked. I was right at the front of the stage. The guys were amazing. Just as a fan of their music. There was a lot of new music in the set, which I was quite excited about because they've just dropped a new single for a new album. And there was a lot of, like other sort of fan favourites, as it were, from the previous records. But a lot of stretching out. A lot of this new stuff sounds... for anyone that doesn't know Butcher Brown, they're sort of like a jazzy, hip-hoppy, soul-y funk outfit. It's like drums, guitar, bass, keys, and like trumpet and saxophone, but also the trumpet and saxophone player is basically like an MC, so he like raps as well.
Right.
And like they all kind of sing a little bit as well. They a lot of this stuff. They're all basically jazzers, hip hop heads and jazzers. So a lot of this new stuff is very much what seems in the way that they presented it in this sort of form is very sort of instrumental and sort of being stretched out and long solos. It felt like they played like 6 songs and like half an hour went by. It was kind of that sort of vibe. But yeah, all great. Obviously, if that's the way it is in the new album, I don't know because nothing's come out yet. But it was great. I was very fortunate as well to meet Corey Fonville as well, which was fantastic. He was kind enough of himself to hook us up and get us into the gig. And I actually ended up supplying him with my snare drums. So he ended up playing my Ludwig snares for the gig.
Cool, man.
Which is really cool because they had a bit of an issue with backline for the gig. So I managed to basically he put out a message on Insta saying he was looking for some Ludwigs. I thought I'd shoot him a message. We've exchanged messages a few times because he was going to come to the drum show. So I was going to try and hook up with him then, but obviously that didn't work out because he didn't get to perform. But yeah, it was really cool. The snares have never sounded so good. I played
I was
it.
going to ask you, did
Yeah.
he tune them differently? Or did
Yeah, he did a little bit. I kind of the two. So he used my Superlight, Ludwig Superlight, 14 by 5.5, and he used my Acrolite as well, which is a 14 by 5. And I kind of know the tuning ranges that he used because he has like a side snare, so like the big fat sort of sound.
Yeah.
And it was kind of already like fairly low, so I tuned it a little bit lower. I haven't actually played that one. It sounds like it was pretty much as is. He had like big fat snare drums and stuff that he was sort of throwing between the two ones.
Yeah.
But the Acrolite, I think it felt a little bit different. I did say to him, I was like, honestly, do whatever you want to do to them. Because I was kind of like, they're probably going to sound better anyway. So
yeah, if you could just tune these up for me.
Yeah. If you could just make them sound great, that'd be cool. But I know he's an Evans guy, and I'm obviously a Remo guy. But yeah, it didn't seem to bother him. But they sound great. I was using it on the weekend, the Acrolite, and yeah, it sounds really good. Cool. Yeah, that was pretty cool. And yeah, we unfortunately didn't get to hang too much. There was a lot of sort of issues with travel that day for them in particular. That was also like most of Paddington was closed for the day and like the evening, and just the whole traffic around London was just like horrendous. But we had a good time. I went with my friend Jack from Hush Mosey, and cool. We got to meet up with our singer Joe. So we had like dinner and just hung out. We walked to Abbey Road as well and saw Abbey Road because he'd never been there. So we thought we might as well make the best of our time in London.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a great gig. It was amazing to finally see them. And obviously great to see Corey in the flesh as well. And he's the real deal. I can confirm he is the real deal.
Yeah, wicked, man. Great. Yeah, man. That's a great turn of events for you, that is. And it's just a shame he wasn't able to kind of hang properly with you and talk about stuff. And
It was a little bit. The plan was to sort of meet them at the venue, early afternoon and see sound check or just, chat and so on. But yeah, it unfortunately didn't work out that way. But all good. We had a little chat at the end and so on. But yeah, it was great. It was. I've been looking forward to seeing them for a long time. So really good. What about you? What's been new with you?
What's new with me? Right, two really quick things. Really, I'm going to put a horrendous plug in for my Montgomery Slacks EP, which goes live on the 13th of December. So that's release date now. That will be after this date.
The day that this comes out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So go and have a listen to that. Bandcamp it, please, because that 79 pence is far better than 5 million streams.
Yes.
Go and please dig out the EP, which is called Dragonfly. So there's five tracks on that. We've released 2 singles from it already, and so that's been great. And we've been working on we've done some writing sessions on new stuff we will be recording later in 2025. So that's just a quick plug for that. Thanks, James.
Montgomery Slacks, Dragonfly, out today.
Yeah, out today. Thank you.
Yeah. Finish this and then go listen to it.
Yeah, that's the next thing you're going to do. And yeah, also, because we talked on last episode was drum education, wasn't it?
Yes.
So it had happened by the time we recorded that, but it wasn't the right time to mention it really. But I've now, since not just before that episode actually came out, I've connected with Louis Palmer,
cool,
and joined his playbetterdrums.com and got myself a kind of lifetime membership.
Amazing.
Really liked the stuff I've seen of his snippets. I've seen some of his stuff on other people's sites with the shared content and stuff, and great guy. He's just switched to Yamaha. He's just done a big switch.
Saw that video.
Yeah.
Great.
So he's gone to the hybrid. I think he's waiting for a 22 bass drum to turn up as this goes out. But so now I've been really getting stuck in to a lot of his content, PDFs, and some really specific practice, and re-energized me a little bit for all of that. And
great.
It's nice that I can really get to grips with all of that over a duration. I think I said it in the last time.
Yeah,
having a short access to something really concentrates you to kind of get the most out of it.
Yeah.
But actually now I have this kind of got a shortcut link to the site, and I might watch a 10-minute video, 15-minute video either at the kit or while I'm having my breakfast or whatever, and it just sets me up to kind of be enthused to go and practice and play. And
Yeah, great.
and there's some great content on there covering all kinds of stuff. And so I'm really excited for that. So that's a quick new thing. So he's
Did
played
you say
better drum stuff.
lifetime membership?
Yeah, I got a lifetime membership.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that,
Yes.
without saying the figure, is that expensive, or is that like the thing that he does?
He does offer that.
Right.
And obviously I won't go into the nitty gritty of
Yeah.
but the bottom line is that I'd liked his stuff, the stuff he's presented before, and I loved his playing. And being honest, he did a Black Friday deal.
Okay.
And so I DM'd him about it, and then so kind of got it. Got it. I won't go into the specifics because I think what he was able to offer me he doesn't make a big deal of. But
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Worthwhile then, basically.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
because it means now I've got a constant source, and I've got this consistency,
Sure.
and I've
Yeah.
just been dialing into the fill or the lick of the month or whatever, and that's nice. And there's some great stuff on there: hand technique and foot technique, and building your weaker hand, and it's all nicely categorized. And I like his delivery and his kind of teaching style, if you like, and
Yeah, sure.
with the mix of PDFs, and the videos are fairly short but really informative. But it all seems to be grounded in the real world of playing music,
Great.
not being a choppy chops drummer. You know what I mean?
Application.
Which you can do. Yeah. How are we going to apply this in the real world of doing a thing? So really good. So that's my quick.
Do you know what?
That's new stuff.
That's kind of funny actually, because obviously the last episode, was all about education. And EP45 has just released his book. I don't know if you've seen that around on the socials, but it's I think it's called something like the psychology. I think it's called On Drumming, the psychology on something.
Right.
It's a drum book, but it's not a drum book with notes in. It's a drum book with words in.
Yeah.
And it looks really, really interesting. I'm thinking about. I'm not a book person at all. I just can't sit with a book for very long. I'd like to get it to support him, but I am quite curious.
Yeah.
Just seeing that has kind of got me like, I kind of really miss being a part of his website and all the sort of stuff. Some of the things that have come out this year as well, the last couple of months, have been really cool. So I would like to jump back in at some point.
Fair play. Get the name of that book, and we'll look it out and we'll shout it out. But I think he did. I don't know how recent it was, but he did a bit of work with Drum Channel, and I saw Drum Channel. He shared a little bit about, and I thought it was it did kind of. It was a really great thing he said. He said, he'll ask a player to come in when lessons and play a beat, play a Drake bass drum pattern. Okay, play another one.
Yeah.
And then he suggests, can you play? What about playing this one? He goes, I can play that. But the drummer himself never actually thought of that play.
That's it. Yeah.
And it's like, well, it's all very well. You could play that if I should play it, but having the mindset to go, right, I can pluck out anything that is available to me.
Yeah.
Again, it's great having 3 solid grooves under yourself, but if there's 4 that you can do when someone shows you and reminds you, it's just
100%.
So that seemed like a really kind of cool way of thinking about it. Actually,
he's got this tool that he made with someone called the Rhythm Bot, that basically you kind of set the parameters of like, like the subdivision or like the style almost, and it will basically just spit out rhythms, and just on an endless loop. And he kind of obviously, especially a lot of the time with his courses, integrated it and just was like, okay, set the parameters and then sit with that and just make that be your kick pattern and just read it and follow it, whilst you're playing like 2 and 4, and just an 8th pattern. Or the same with like ghost notes, or the same with like a hi-hat or a ride pattern. Yeah. And it's really, really cool. And that Rhythm Bot is not, I think it's obviously like integrated into the website, but it doesn't cost to use it. It's kind of like Groove Scribe.
Yeah, okay.
Just go on it. Rhythm Bot. It's amazing. The name of the book is it's called On Drumming, the Psychology and Philosophy of Improvised Drumming.
Right.
Or improvisation, sorry. That was also me trying my best to read a few of those words. But But
Well, now
yeah,
you've managed the title, you might be able to sort that. You might be able to
yeah,
get
I
through
think
the
I might
book.
be able to get through the book. Yeah, it's like 300 pages, but I
Yeah,
could try.
yeah.
But one more before we move on.
Yeah, yeah, go on, man.
One more new thing,
Okay.
and I'm not going to say anything because I'm not
You're
going to
just going
talk
to...
about this. I'm just going to show. So this is for the video version only.
Yeah. If there's any,
Plug
if
the
there was any
YouTube.
reason, ever a reason to go and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
This is it, and I'm not gonna. I'll talk to you about it obviously afterwards.
Okay.
I'm not gonna
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be talking about this until it's done.
Right. Goodness knows.
You ready?
I don't want to describe it. It's now like an audio book.
Yeah. Describe something completely different.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. Right. Yes.
Right.
Right.
Interesting.
Interesting. Right. For those of you who want to know what that is, you'll have to head
You
over
have to wait until next week because this isn't the video's not out until another week.
Yeah, yeah. The video.
But you have to jump to 15 minutes in and you'll see. But yeah, that's
right.
That's something new that
exciting.
I'm going to be putting together in the new year. So
cool. Good. Good.
Yes.
Well,
there you go.
Brilliant. Yeah. It's very difficult to not talk about that because it's a podcast and it's verbal based, but we'll move on. Yeah.
We'll move on. Leave that to one side.
So as people have seen in the title of this episode is our favourite drum sounds. I think that's what we're going with, Harry, isn't it?
Yeah, something along the lines of that.
Yeah. So how did this come about? So I was talking to I was listening to a Queen album. So I'm a big Queen fan, which will become evident as we move through this episode. And they have just re-released their first album, which came out in, I think, 73. It's a good year. It's called Queen 1. And they've re-released it, remastered, with a few changes to some of the vocals and some changes to the backing vocals, I think. But the big difference or the big change that they've made when they announced this on the various social channels was that they've kind of re-engineered the drum tracks.
Really?
Yeah. So they weren't ever really happy with the drum tracks when they did it, but it was their first album. There was a lot of experimenting going on with what they were trying. They didn't really know better themselves. They've said that, and it's kind of okay with it, but it always never sat well with them that it was kind of the sound they wanted. So they've released that. It's now the 2024 mix. It's Queen 1 2024 mix. And I'm really familiar with the original album. I've not checked to see if the original album is still available for streaming, actually. But and I'm a big Queen fan. Got listening to it, and a couple of songs in, I don't really like it. Yeah. I don't like the mix. I don't know whether it's a matter of they've added samples over the original, or whether they've taken the masters and re-engineered, re-leveled it, remixed it. I don't know the specific. I don't know how they recorded it in the first place, whether it was multi-mic or close mic or what. But it sounds like a really thick, full, modern drum sound.
Yeah.
And for someone who's been really keen on that sound of that kind of early 70s prog rocky stuff they were into, it just doesn't sit well with me. And I was talking to another Queen fan last weekend, a mate of mine, and he's not a musician at all, but he was asking me what I thought. I said, I don't really like it.
Yeah.
And he said, well, he speaks to a lot of people on his Queen forums, and it sounds like it's a 50-50 split at the minute.
Right.
Some people like it, some people don't. And I think we were due to do an episode on this a bit further down the line, weren't we? But it kind of got me thinking about, well, what sounds do we like? It just doesn't sound... That album to me now doesn't sound how it could or should to my ear. So that was one reason why I thought we talk about kind of drum sounds that we're into. And we talked about potentially which sounds kind of got us thinking about drums in the first place, and how we've developed our ear as we've gone on listening to other people and our own sound. But actually, so that was the kind of the catalyst for the episode. So go and check that out, and if you can hear the original and then back it with the latest mix, I'd be interested in people's thoughts, especially if you're a Queen fan. But in another random thing, I heard on another podcast this week, you know, Harry, when we talk about this typical 70s sound of drums, and we've all got a kind of mind's eye of what that's going to sound like.
Yeah.
Ringo Starr, tea towels on the kit, very thuddy.
Probably no bottom heads as well.
Yeah, concert toms, dry stuff with tea towel. Well, apparently, I heard
dead
this,
drums, isn't it? Really?
It's dead drums. Yeah. I heard this on the Rock on Tours podcast. I should kind of quote the source, where what they were saying that sound originated through the necessity when just kind of very early 70s when they moved to 24 track from 16 track. They could do more, but the tape was still the same thickness. So when they were recording more tracks, there was far more bleed across the microphones, across other instruments. So what they had to start doing is isolating the drums, so people started to record separately in different booths, etc., etc. And to dull all that kind of resonance bleeding into other microphones, they started to kill all the drum sound. So it was never really, apparently, it was never really
for the sound.
For the sound, it was for the technicality of not letting the drums bleed onto other tracks within the 24
and the control as well of everything, isn't it?
Yeah,
being able to
And now we referred to that as the 70s sound, but it was only actually done as from a technicality perspective, not because people wanted it to sound like that necessarily.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of an interesting. It was the advancing technology which completely changed the way that. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
Other than kind of, I don't know, some punk records in the late 70s, all of that kind of 70 to 77 drum sound, almost 10 years of really thuddy, dry drums, all come from the way that recording technology changed. But
well, even like you listen to the first Police album, and that's that sound, and then you go like immediately to the second one, which isn't that much later, and it's pretty different. And by the time they get to like the third one, it's like the snares tuned back up and the hi-hats are tiny and it's all that sort of stuff. But it's quite funny actually because like they clearly dampened it and killed it so they have more control with the microphones, but in dampening the drums they technically have less control because it can only really do one thing. Just to thump and thud,
That's it. No, so that was kind of what we were talking about. That was the thought process behind seemed quite relevant at the moment with that kind of stuff I'd come across. So
was there like an album? So was there like an album then that like obviously I know you've talked in the past about like obviously you had a lot of sort of time off from the kit and stuff like that since you since you kind of let's say since you've gone like pro and so on and you've been getting back into the gigging and so on and obviously you've got your originals and your functions and your jazz stuff, is there an album that either from like way back when or more recently you kind of thought to be like the album of like that kind of started you on that sort of sound quest journey that like made you think, all right, I need to kind of like try and look for my sound, or I want to tune my drums like this, or go for that sort of sound that player has, if that makes sense?
It's a weird one. So I think to answer the question really quickly, I don't think there is an album.
Right.
To be fair.
Okay.
I think I've always been, and it's an ironic thing because it's also something that I see in my own playing as well. We'll not get too deep, I guess, on this, but because I play in different genres. So obviously my jazz kit is tuned. In my head, I want my jazz kit to sound like Joe Morello on Time Out.
Right.
Take five.
Yeah.
And in fact, actually, that's probably been more driven by cymbal sound rather than drum sound.
Okay.
That's what I've heard more. I think jazz is far more prevalent to the kind of cymbal tone, and whether you're playing a flat ride or 15, 14-inch hats,
I would agree. Yeah.
whatever. But I've started to tune my kit a lot higher for that. Really tried to push it really quite tight. I remember going back 3-4 years when I had the kit. I thought that's quite high, But as I've started to listen to my music and then played in venues and listened to other people's kits when I've gone to gigs, I'm like, I need to really look at my tuning.
Send that up, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's because my origins were in rock and blues.
Yeah.
and what sounds high to me in a bop kit is nowhere near high compared to where I've got thuddy big toms, with twin dual heads on, two ply heads. So yeah, I think in terms of where I started with my sound was, so this is my first one of the, maybe I think we've got one or two or three each, have we?
Yeah,
that we've
two or
kind of
three.
picked up. I didn't. It wasn't this album because this album didn't come out, but it was what became the Queen live album, Live at Wembley '92.
Right. Yeah.
It was originally Live Magic, and then that was a really hacked down concert. But then the full thing got released a few years later. Not 92, 86, wasn't it? Sorry, big Queen fan. Only 6 years out. Yeah, but that album got released later, Live at Wembley, and that sound, because I was a youngish kid at the time, I didn't play. I wasn't recording. I wasn't. It was like I wanted my drums to sound like Roger Taylor's drums on that live album, and that was always. So I literally didn't quite buy the same sizes. I went 8 to 16. I think he was 10 to 18. So I was kind of 2 inches up, if you like. Because I knew I wasn't going to be playing just his music. But that sound of that kind of loads of attack, but so I had 2-ply heads on, but clear heads. And I didn't want a lot of decay. I wanted them to be quite controlled, but I didn't want them to be. I didn't want them to be thuddy with T-tails on. Lots of attack and a roundness to the sound, and lots of depth without ringing on. And that's what I did. That's how I wanted my drums to sound.
Yeah, sure.
And that was probably I don't know, 10 years of that, I guess.
That's interesting. That's a live album as well. To pick especially back then, I can imagine, I'm not, saying this for sure, but I can imagine live sound back then, night to night, differed, if that makes sense. I mean, obviously with modern technology, especially these days, sound engineers, I think, I don't know for sure, but you'd imagine they're saving basically presets and just tweaking it every night, to get the consistency. But I can imagine live sound,
and bear in
obviously
mind,
that was taken into a studio and mixed and tweaked and so on.
Yes,
it wasn't,
so. I mean, it's not raw off the desk. Let's be fair.
But
I do know that they went to a lot of trouble to get. And I think they talk about the specific name and models and the system they used in the documentary that I watched once, but they did go to real lengths to get the best equipment, the best sound, because this was a tour, because it was a world tour. And they were playing, this was at Wembley, but actually they'd played Nebworth, which it's not got that big bowl, and they'd been playing Sao Paulo, they'd played Budapest, so they were always going to a different sized arena, even if it might have just been flat, like
indoor,
Nebworth.
outdoor.
So the sound's always going to generate, differently, isn't it? Depending on whether you're playing to an open, flat crowd or whether it's one end of a stadium. So I know, I'm not sure how much of it was mixed, but it just had a heaviness to it, but was so much clarity, and there's a depth and tone to the drums, which well,
you weren't getting that at that time in recorded music, the thud and the thump and the loudness. That's where in the 80s, that's where everything came in, wasn't it? So,
and I think also, I mean, maybe because they were my first rock band epiphany, you know what I mean? I wasn't really, at the time I was floating around listening to stuff on Top of the Pops and back in the day, and it was all 3-minute pop songs, or it was New Romantics, or it was punk, or it was whatever it was, or it was girl bands of the time. And I'm talking like Bananarama, not Girls Aloud, because that's about a 40 years difference. So this was where oh wow, it just really hit me between the eyes. So that was my kind of the first, and I always refer back to that as just one of the best. I mean, generally, I think it's a great sounding live album, but the drum sound on it is really kind of was my thing, and that's what I was trying to emulate back in the day. What was your? I mean, we don't have to do it chronologically necessarily, but what was your kind of starting point or reference?
Yeah, for me, I mean,
or what were you influenced by? I guess when
I
you
mean, like early doors when I was like first started playing and like gigging and stuff like that, and you talk about like like drummers or sounds that you're like, I love that drummer, so I want to get like what or set up like how he plays or they
yeah
play and get that sound. It would have been people like Travis on the self-titled Blink album, which is just like that album's just like a big room sound, really,
yeah
cranked, just absolutely blast. Like I was kind of going for that, but without like the cranked snare drum and stuff like that, and
yeah
I wasn't really aware of like the sound and stuff, like Red Hot Chili Peppers and all that sort of stuff and Foos and whatnot. Um, and like, yeah, I love like Slipknot and like Metallica back in the day as well, but I didn't like really. I was just like, man, Metallica, the Black Album sounds massive. That's kind of like all
yeah
I knew. I would turn it up really loud. I wouldn't really know like the ins and out. But when I like first, it kind of really happened as I like got to uni and stuff like that, and I discovered John Mayer, and when I found Continuum, which is
yeah
still to this day like probably my favorite album of all time. I mean, like just even in like the first three songs, you've got like "Waiting on the World to Change," which is probably like a 16-inch at most bass drum, boom
yeah
boom, with like a tiny little piccolo snare and like a
yeah
little jazz ride, and then the next song has got like the next song's like "Belief," which is like a super fat gushy snare drum sound with like a big 24-inch kick, and then you've got like
right
"Gravity," which is like somewhere in between.
yeah
Yeah, that
yeah
was, I was like, whoa, this is like a roller coaster of sound. I mean, obviously,
yeah
Steve being the player that he is and the impact he's had on me, like that was really eye opening to be like, wow, you can like do all of this, in these 12 songs. Like the range of sounds that you
yeah
get from
yeah
those 12 songs is huge, and it was kind of like, okay, like I remember getting like a little like the Sonar jungle snare and being like hitting it and being like, that sounds like Waiting on the World to Change, sweet. And then
yeah
from there you start to get into like symbol sizes and dark symbols and bright stuff and all that, and then yeah, you're kind of your eyes and ears open up to it. And I think Continuum not only being just 12 like amazing songs, it's a real masterclass in like and Steve talks about it all the time, and just you tune for the song, you use whatever you need to use in the
yeah
song. If you want to put a jingle on the hi-hat because you think that might be what it needs, then you got to do that. Or you tea-towel the drums, but I don't know, whatever it is,
yeah
it's all about the sound and the song. And yeah, for me, Continuum was just like, I mean, it's like the beginning of a never-ending journey, isn't it? Like
yeah
I actually recorded a thing a couple of weeks ago that I still need to post. I recorded because I was playing my 12-inch snare. I was like, this is probably what felt like at the time like the closest I had gotten to the Waiting on the World to Change thing. So I recorded a little loop, and I want to put a tambourine over the top of it because there's a tambourine in it, and try and mix it a little bit and post that because I think it sounds pretty good. I don't think it's
yeah
spot on, but like it's not bad.
yeah man
For sort of just chuck the drums in a room sort of thing and just kind of
yeah
stumbled
yeah
upon
yeah
it. But yeah, that was the first time where I was like, okay, this is you got to like make sure that you know how to get a sound and tune your
yeah
drums, and then I started to like get into watching people like tune drums and talking
yeah
about why they like the heads that they use or why they like the cymbals, like those old like modern drummer rig rundowns of
yeah
other players being like, I use, Chad Smith being like, I use coated clear CS dots and
yeah
all this sort of
yeah
stuff, and
yeah
that's kind of when I kind of first got into that whole thing. And then
I mean
from there, you listen to any other album, then you're like, oh, okay, trying to think about what they're using and
yeah
how it looks. But
I
yeah.
mean, now you said clear CS dots. When I hear clear CS dots, I immediately I think of Tony Williams.
Okay, I was going to say Bonham. I thought you'd say
Right,
John Bonham.
oh,
But
okay,
yeah,
yeah.
but I could
No,
see, yeah, the yellow Gretsch as
the
well.
yellow
Yeah,
Gretsch with the
yeah,
3 floor toms.
yeah,
That
and
that sound. I mean, I mean, okay, when he played when he was younger and he was playing with Miles Davis, he was playing more kind of
yeah,
4-piece jazz
yeah,
bop setup. But when he went into being him and playing under his own name, as it were, it's like that sound he gets
yeah,
is and yeah, I did constantly think actually, or 3 drum sounds I like. I specifically kept away from John Bonham because it's like, well, that's a
yeah,
given.
yeah,
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 it's an
yeah. Who
easy,
doesn't?
yeah. But yeah, so yeah, Bonham's on. Yeah, we all know.
They're
Yeah,
70s, aren't they? I'm not a
Yeah,
big Led Zeppelin, but that's funny
yeah,
because they're a rock band, obviously, but they're like the complete opposite of
yeah,
their drum sound. It's just
yeah.
a couple
I
of
think a
mics in a
lot of the
room.
engineer, John
Glenn
Glyn
Johns,
John,
yeah,
thank you.
yeah,
The way they mic'd and and I think Bonham having an influence. I don't think he was ever a jazz drummer, but influenced by jazz and the open sounds,
yeah.
he never moved away from that. And funnily enough, you talked about things I'm finding in my sounds. I've been experimenting with being a lot more open, having an open sound and more vintage type sound
For jazz or just in general?
for Montgomery Slacks.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
sure,
certainly
yeah, yeah.
recording stuff with single ply heads and a less damped bass drum.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
yeah, but yeah, as an aside, but
Yeah,
no, CL single CS dots,
CS
something like that.
dots.
Tony
Yeah, man.
Williams.
Yeah, that's actually that was the first time I brought heads to my toms, and
Right.
my old Sonar Silver kit, which is making a comeback next year. I'm
Is it?
refinishing it. Yeah, I'm staining it black like the snare I've made.
Okay.
I'm halfway through taking all the wrap off. And I just got to do the finish. So
Right.
that's
Get
my
it
mission for
sanded.
the new year.
And you got
So I
have you
just
got,
kind of missed like a 16-inch floor tom and like a 22-inch kick for a little
yeah.
bit. Kind of want to change it up.
I've
So
set a kit up today for a student at their house because they've got a new kit that they got from a friend and they're looking after it for them. And you can have it on permanent loan. And I got around there and it's a Pearl export. I
oh
thought
yes,
it's
of
22-inch
course it
Pearl
is.
export. Yeah, 12, 13, 16. And
Yeah,
I've not
lush.
fitted the 13 because he's only young. He's a little lad.
Yeah,
And
no thanks.
I can't get it low enough to get it near enough. I says, you might as well play it as a four-piece. He's got a proper Dave Grohl setup.
Yeah, wicked.
Although perhaps a smaller height.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Um,
I got them because of Ilan Rubin. He was playing
oh,
CS Dots at the time. I think he still does actually, or occasionally. But yeah, he was with Paramore at the time, and he was playing.
yeah,
And I was like, he looks so cool. I'm gonna get CS
yeah.
Dots and sound like
Oh,
him.
that
But
I was two-ply clear because of what Roger Taylor was
right,
doing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And actually, the Premier drums came with the DS head, which is their own
It's
head,
just that, yeah.
which had the single gasket in the middle. And
Mm.
from that, I tried pinstripes, didn't get on with them. But yeah, we could go down a drum head. We've
Yeah,
done drum
yeah.
heads before. We go down
What's the second album? What's
well, you
next?
talk about so when I kind of did the Queen thing, and one of the artists or I started to pick up on which were weirdly I think were already out, but it passed me by. So yeah, short answer, Phil Collins.
Yeah, of course, of course.
But mainly, and I've been listening to some of his stuff today actually because I knew we were going to have this conversation. The first two albums, Face Value and I'm going to have to check my notes. And there's Phil
Face
Collins.
Value's got In the End Tonight on, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the opening
Yeah,
track. It's the
yeah.
opening track.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the Hello, I Must Be Going is the second album. I couldn't remember if it was No Jacket Required or Hello, I Must Be Going. But his sound on that, the concert tom sound,
Yeah.
which for me, it just like, I don't think I'd ever play a kit like that because it's too niche.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Also, actually doesn't sound very good, like as an
Yeah.
acoustic instrument.
Yeah.
They sound all,
Yeah.
that's all. I mean, I'm sure that if you were to buy a USA custom Gret setup like that, I'm sure it sounds
Sure,
amazing.
right, yeah.
But
Nick Collins' verse set.
yeah, yeah. Actually, Drumeo just today. Say what you will about Drumeo, but
Yeah.
they just released the trailer for their documentary that they filmed ages ago with Phil, where it's like Brandon interviewing Phil and Nick.
Right.
And a few other people, like there's a little clip of Chad Smith talking about it and stuff.
Yeah,
and
cool.
it looks really good, actually. It looks
Yeah.
really, really
Yeah.
good. But yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
I think his sound got more processed because I listened to some of the later stuff and it feels a little bit more, as I say, processed, and there's a lot of maybe sampled on top, but it's like gated reverb thing, which I know is in the Air Tonight fill that he plays.
Yeah.
But if you listen to some of the lesser known songs on the album, I quite like it because his touch is phenomenal. But playing those single ply heads on concert toms, he's getting the dexterity he's getting and what he's playing is so subtle.
Yeah.
But it's such a nice sound in the context of his songs.
Yeah.
It just suits his songs really well. So, that was a kind of, because again, when I was like, double ply heads, whacking them hard, trying to get
Yeah.
that attack with very little resonance. To then go, oh, maybe I could try the tuning up here and do different heads on. What does it sound if I take the bottom head off? And yeah, so that his sound I think is pretty iconic. Anyway, but it always seems to sound right. And another reason it's come to mind recently is because now we're in Christmas season. Band-Aid. I'm
The
listening to
Band-Aid,
Band-Aid
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's one of the great. And I think there's a documentary out about the making of that, and they've got
Yes.
Phil. They're filming Phil to record the drums to it, and he's playing his Gretsch kit with concert toms all around it, and the way it's set up, it's like really weird. But the sound he gets, again, you talk about what the player's pulling out off the head with the stick. It still works. It's his drum kit,
Yeah.
but in that context, playing on the Band-Aid, it still sounds great.
So, yeah.
And it just seems to work really well wherever he's playing with it. But which I think is down to him.
Definitely also like a like decade sort of thing, I think, isn't it?
Yeah,
It was,
early 80s stuff.
Yeah,
and
it's his thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, and even like when he had his own big band playing in the kind of early 90s, I think, late 80s, early 90s, might be a bit out of the dates. Again, he still played his concert tom
How
big
he plays
kit.
drums. Yeah,
Open bass drum, one head on it, and it still sounded right in that context. And I think it's just one of the all-time kind of iconic drum sounds, I guess. Maybe up there with Tony Williams and Bonham, actually. But
instantly recognisable there. You know?
Yeah. So listen to those, because that In the Air Tonight, Phil, the one we all know, actually turns up on another song. It plays it in the chorus or the pre-chorus every time. So it's
wow.
So it's not in just In the Air Tonight. He plays it on another song.
Again.
I'll do this again.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a quick one for me. The second one is that early Phil Collins sound, and he was playing a lot with Brand X as well, which is proper proggy stuff. Again, he seemed really comfortable with his sound that he wanted for him. Where I guess I've always been a bit, as I say, a bit of a chameleon in terms of, I'm going to want to hear sound something like this for this and sound something like that for that. And
that's funny actually, because not to jump ahead to my
go ahead,
to my last one, but I think that in some situations you do have to kind of get all of the sounds, especially on like a function gig, for example.
Yeah,
you can't like you can't not play like Ain't Nobody without like a fat snare drum sound and just sound, or like Beat It, for example, or Billie Jean or something like that. But on the flip side of that, I've also been kind of thinking, because there's a few drummers, like local drummers and a few players where I feel like you're always doing you. It'll be a really interesting angle, so it'd be really interesting to like kind of lean into that a little bit more. But that's more to do with like my third one. But my second one is it's a Butcher Brown album. And I can't really. I think I say the album's called King Butch, so I think it's actually called #King Butch, but it's got like a brown cover. Came out in 2020, I think, during COVID. But that was like the first time. Again, obviously Corey Fonville on drums, loads of different sounds, but it was the first time that I'd heard like a recording and a sort of like playing style where I was kind of like, this kind of sounds like me and my friends jamming.
right.
And I've kind of like always wanted to find that in a band and in music, but I kind of hadn't. Without like watching like videos of me and my friends jamming, or and that's not to say that like me and my friends sound like Butcher Brown by any means, but it's like it's like same energy of like just us kind of like grooving in like a sound check or whatever it is. And that was the first time I was like, wow, like there's clearly music out there like this that I'm really into.
Yeah.
Because it is on that jazzier side, but it's also like that funky and soul-y sort of side that's modern.
Yeah.
And it just covers a lot of like sounds, but I mean not to the extreme of like continuum and stuff like that. But yeah, it just sounds like a band jamming from like a sound point of view.
Yeah.
it was when I started to get into like seriously think about like some bigger hi-hats and stuff like that, and that's when I sort of got the combination that I've been using for a while now, and like sizzles on cymbals and
Yeah,
like phasers, and Robert Glasper's Black Radio is another one for that actually, with like Chris Dave and like the sort of stacky tambourine hi-hat and like the spiral cymbals and stuff like that. That sort of sound was kind of like, okay, this is like not overly produced. This is like an achievable sound.
yeah, okay, yeah,
This is kind of like, it feels like a bit of me. Whereas like the Steve Jordan Continuum thing was almost like, that's what I'd love to go for.
yeah,
I don't know if I could constantly get away with it. Whereas like it feels like this is the same person just taking a few things out and adjusting it,
yeah,
but it's
yeah.
still being them.
Not chopping out a whole kit and not
No,
changing a whole thing, and
yeah,
yeah, it felt more achievable and organic, and
yeah.
yeah,
It
yeah,
felt like you could just play like that all night on a gig, and I was like, that was like, okay, I was a real head turner, where it's like, crank the snare drum, but like dampen it with like a tea towel and kind of get a different sound, or like
yeah, yeah,
make the toms really thuddy, or don't, or make them open, like you were saying, and
yeah,
yeah, just kind of experimenting with a little, not a lot. And
yeah,
it was like,
yeah,
yeah, it was really, really cool to be like, okay, and also even from a playing point of view, like some of the stuff is just grooving, they're just
yeah,
playing tunes, and it's kind of like, this is really nice. Like I feel like I can learn a lot from this, and actually be able to play it with confidence, and
yeah,
then
yeah,
take it and put it in my own playing. There's loads of fills on those albums, like little, 2 bar, 1.5 bar, half bar fills that
yeah.
I've like copped and just constantly do, just constantly have like baked into my playing. So yeah, King Butch, Butcher Brown,
Yeah, it is
great stuff.
interesting thing though. So how would you describe how he's got his toms tuned in that? He plays Ludwig, doesn't he? I think I
Yes, he
saw some
does now.
videos
Yeah.
you put up when you went to the gig. Or is he playing like a 20 or 22 kick,
Um,
shallow, or is he playing like 10 and 12 toms, or is he? I don't know specifically how he tunes or what
mm,
he's using.
I would say, I think back in when that album came out, I think it was with Yamaha at the time.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure he had like an old Yamaha that was like it looked like a 20, 12, 14 setup.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
and they were tuned pretty low, to be fair, like pretty thuddy. I would describe them as,
Yeah.
and the bass drum was like quite thuddy and fairly low. And then you had like the main snare and then like a side sort of fat snare and whatnot. I think now he's with Ludwig. I think it's more of a 22, 13, 16 kind of thing.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
but like when there's also another band called Super Blue that he plays with. That's got Kurt Elling, the jazz singer, and
Nice.
Charlie Hunter, which is I highly recommend. Those records, Super Blue and Super Blue, the Iridescent Spree, I think the second record is called.
Okay.
Amazing stuff. You'd actually probably really like that, Matt. It's
Yeah, man.
very,
Yeah,
very
I dig it.
jazzy, but like groovy.
Yeah, it's when you talk about
Um,
those sizes he's using. When you describe them as a kind of jazzy, funky,
yeah.
soul-y outfit, that's not the sizes you would necessarily
No, no, not at all.
think
Not at
about
all.
with that, because you
Well,
oh
funnily
right,
enough, yeah, no, funny enough, actually, I don't know when or where this was used, but I remember seeing pictures from a gig, and he had the 22 Ludwig, but with no front head on, and he was
oh
using that live, so it's just a big pillow and no front head on it.
right,
And then had like the 13, 16, sort of fairly low, but then like in the Super Blue thing, he would probably 12, 14 tuned a little bit higher,
yeah,
almost in the bot range, like kind of what you were saying about your Gretsch kit, like high but not like that high.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So yeah, really interesting sounds. I mean, part of it is kind of like, oh yeah, I missed that. You can get like a low thump out of a 14-inch floor tom for sure,
yeah,
but like the low thump you get out of a 16 is like, it's like
yeah,
that Benny Greb thing. Benny Greb has got like the ultimate tom 10 and 16 tuning that his
yeah,
floor tom
yeah.
always sounds amazing. It's kind of like that's the holy grail,
And I think, I mean, let's not go down the floor tom rabbit hole now, but
Yeah,
it's the depth of the floor tom really is probably going to play
yeah.
more than because I
16 by
know.
16.
Yeah, 16 by 16. But if
Mm.
you've got a 14 by 14, great. But I know you can get a four. I think Yamaha's is a 14 by 13,
Yeah, you
and
can get different
and
ones.
there's a 14 by 15. I think, and I mean that's if you're going to go over square or under square, it can make a massive difference to a
Yeah.
14-inch floor tom.
Same with the rack tom. Like my Sonar's got a 12 by, I think it's 9. I'd
Yeah.
never really used it because I bought a 10 by like 7 or
Yeah.
whatever, and ditched it straight away. But yeah, that there was something about when I got my Gretsch and it was a 12 by 8. I was like, this is right,
Yeah.
like a 12 by 9 or a 13 by 9 or whatever it is. It's like, ooh, this is not good,
Yeah. Well,
not the one.
my rack tom's a 10 by 10 and
Ooh,
12 by 10.
oof.
So they're
But again,
quite.
of the time, isn't it? Like
Yeah, yeah.
that was the thing.
That
Power
was the
toms
fusion
and
thing.
yeah,
That was the
yeah,
fusion thing, and that was the Dave with a hanging floor
yeah,
tom.
yeah,
That was
yeah,
the Dave
yeah,
Weckl.
yeah.
It's the mid-90s people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what
so
about you? What about so? I think we both like said like the
yeah,
third release is more of a like at least mine is. I can't remember if you said it, but like kind of like looking to the future, where we are now, where we kind of want to go. That's kind of
yeah,
where my third one is. I don't know about you.
yeah. I think I'm far more eclectic. So the third one that I kind of the honourable mention was for Vinny Colaiuta on 10 Summoners Tales.
Gorgeous. Talking
Yeah,
to someone about that the other day. Unreal.
it's like probably the best recorded snare drum
I can hear
on
that
an
snare drum from Saint
album.
Augustine in Hell right now.
Yeah,
Blah, ding, ding, ding,
ding,
ding,
ding,
ding,
yeah,
ding.
yeah. Um,
Unreal.
and actually, I listened to most of the album today, and I realised there's not a lot of toms in it. But
No.
what you do here is all the cymbal work.
Yeah.
The snare is killer. The bass drum's great. The
The
snare is
cross
killer.
stick as well. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
In
I
seven
mean
days.
that cross stick is just
Sampled
that's
for
the de
for the ages.
facto. That is the pinnacle of. So just from us, I mean that's more about the recording. Obviously, it's Vinny's playing,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was my kind of honourable mention as one that is like it just for me. Maybe because we're drummers, I don't know, but for me, it makes the record.
Yeah.
But it's because I guess we're biased in the way we listen to stuff because we're listening to what Vinny's doing. But
Mm.
yeah, it's just what he's playing. Yeah, okay, there's odd meters in it. It's not so much the grooves of the sound; it's the colouring in he does,
Yeah, sure.
and that's just the sound of those splashes and whatever is brilliant.
The bits that he got away with, basically.
Yeah, the bits that Sting let him have on it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, but in terms of where my sound's going now, I think I'm far more eclectic in terms of trying. Again, we talked about what is my sound, and I couldn't define my sound, Harry. To be fair,
Right.
I don't mean that to sound pretentious,
No, I know what you mean.
but I think it's because I've spent so long playing other people's records
Yeah.
that you want to sound like that record, and you want to sound and you can't buy everything in the world. I think you were talking about the Butcher Brown thing compared to
Yeah.
the John Mayer thing.
Yeah.
But what can I buy and what can I use that's going to give me a broad enough palette without me having to commit to completely different setups?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I've been doing some stuff recently where I've been using towels a lot more on the drums,
Yeah. Me
and I've
too,
been more
actually.
open to that. I not so much with the sizzle stuff. I've kind of kept the cymbals fairly kind of standard, but I don't think there's anything. I guess the fusiony stuff is the stuff that has really got my attention. So what comes to mind is like the Larnell Lewis stuff with Snarky Puppy.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously not playing like him, but
All the
his
notes.
all the notes, no notes left at all.
But great groove, though.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
What a player.
but again, he's tuning because I think he uses that. He uses like a snare drum as a floor tom,
Yeah. Yeah.
but really tuned low.
Yeah.
So I've been experimenting with 2 snare setups.
I love 2 snares.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the fat side on the left,
Yeah, well,
sort of
funny
thing.
enough, I did a pop
Or the other way.
gig. I did like a really cranked one to the left
Okay. Yeah.
for some stuff. I think it was we doing some Weezer stuff, so I wanted something like for the intro of a song, really ringy.
It's like the Nickelback "How You Remind Me" sort of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I wanted something. The one in front of me is the bread and butter,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
was really cranked. So yeah, I think I've been more aware of drum tuning with jazz in terms
Yeah.
of cranking stuff higher. But yeah, nothing like I want to sound like that. I think now I'm getting to a point where I'm starting to feel really comfortable with how I want to sound. And I think
Sure.
having an originals, and you'd be the same, having an originals project means that you can beg, steal, and borrow the things you like, but
Hmm.
you're very conscious about. I think it's more about having the confidence to try stuff in with new music, you
Yeah.
know, without
Well, it can change the vibe of everything as well,
yeah,
especially when you're in the writing room. If you're writing whatever kind of song and you decide to put a tea towel on your snare drum, there's actually one song in the new Digsby release that just because at the time I had like a little stacker hi-hat with a tambourine on, I played the whole thing on it, and that kind of I have like my spiral thing as well, and that kind of
yeah,
informed everything. And from then on, it was like it's weird if I even on gigs where I wasn't using that, I still have to put the ching ring on the hi-hats to get something close because it just kind of became a
yeah,
thing. And like with the
yeah,
clap as well, I had that at the time, and like that to me, and I think Joe the singer would probably agree, that informed and infused a lot of the song when we were writing it, and it's still kind of bottled in there.
yeah, yeah.
It'd be weird to like not use that, or
No,
like you said, you take a risk, you put a sound on, and that could
well,
be the key.
I mean, I was working through some demos recently, and my original idea was to play a cross stick at the start of the tune, then go to kind of conventional snare drum playing for the chorus or pre-chorus, and build, and then whatever. But then I thought, well, I'll just rather than playing cross stick, I'm going to try. I'll try. It's not even a tea towel; it's like a heavier hand towel, and I don't even really think I detuned the snare. Maybe detuned it a bit, and then put the towel on. But rather than going cross stick, snare, and building and dynamics like that, I just played. I'm doing my best Harry Sermon impression. I played. You know, um, they couldn't afford Steve. What's his name? Steve Jordan. But uh, just playing the snare with a very light trad grip.
Yeah,
I'm playing a 16th note kind of Gadsden type groove. Um,
beautiful.
but again, now from straight off the bat, I'm playing that rather than playing the cross stick, and the vibe of the song is completely
Yeah,
different. In fact, we've actually reverted back to playing. We chopped around a lot of the arrangement, but off the back of that and the bass player changing a little bit what he did, we've now gone back to the original arrangement, and the song just works. And
yeah,
and it's kind of taking away that kind of cross stick and then going to an open, like a normal crank snare,
yeah.
just going to a dull snare all the way through, or that thuddy snare all the way through, just set the tone, perfectly. So
I always think this is a bit of a random thing, but I always think of when you're. There's two things. First of all, I always try to when I want to try and do something. You've got almost like you've got a new toy that you want to just
yeah,
force
yeah,
in there. There's this great Steve Jordan video where he's just kind of like when he's like basically he gets annoyed when drummers are like, "Oh, I know what beat I'm going to play on this song." It's like you've not even heard the song yet, you've got no idea,
yeah,
right? 100%. Then there's this great, you've probably seen this as a video of the Foos when they're making Wasting Light, and Taylor sat back and he's like, "What about they listen to like a little pass through of the song, and they're like, what if we had like this drum sound, and then like another drum sound fades in, and then the other one fades out, and then another like overdub thing." And he's like, "This would be really cool," and everyone's kind of like looking around, and then Dave Grohl's just like, "It would be cooler if we had some KFC right now." And it's kind of like you're trying so hard to get all these ideas in. It's like, but it's clearly not. It's
yeah.
clearly not the one. So
No, no, no.
let's just carry on and ignore.
Yeah, I think
Always
that
makes me laugh.
that's the skill, and we'll probably wrap up now, actually. But
Yeah,
that
yeah,
that's the skill in terms of being confident that what you're going to do is right, rather
yeah,
than just not second guessing yourself in terms of trying stuff for the sake of trying it.
yeah. Try
Uh,
the tried and tested stuff
yeah,
in a way, but also try something new. I think, yeah, for me, like
don't be
my
sold on an idea before you've tried it, and
yeah.
commit to using new toys just because you've got them.
Yeah, if you hear that sound and you want to pull it out of the bag, then go for it. But if
Yeah,
don't try and, I mean, if it's not going well, try something else, like you guys
yeah,
did.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
but also don't try yeah because you want to. Like for me, I'll just mention this quickly before we wrap up. But like this other sort of the extra thing, this new sort of sound that I wouldn't say it's a new sort of sound because it's very much like on brand with like my playing style and stuff like that. But I've been listening to a lot of, especially over actually the last handful of days since we discussed the idea of this topic. I've been listening to a lot of like Robert Glasper, and he uses drummers like Justin Tyson and Chris Dave, and they've got like a very distinguished sound, but it's that like almost, I don't want to say dead snare. It's like a crank snare, but it's like a muffled snare. And I think it's more to do with the processing of it's like a tight, dead snare. And it's a lot of like the snares and the bottom of the bottom mic of the snare cranked and compressed.
Yeah, right.
It's that sound. It's very, very like crisp and dynamic.
Yeah.
And then that sort of like mid thud from the bass drum. So like I've been using my Vic Firth big like fleecy beater, and sort of put a little bit more dampening in my bass drum. And actually, you said about muffling the toms a little bit more. I've been using my tackle rags to just take a little bit of that ring off, especially in like quieter venues, just getting that do and just that like thump.
Yeah.
I really want to get this company called Roots EQ. They basically do like almost like a fabric head that you can get that you can kind of just chuck on your drums. But they do like a ringed version. Super hard to find in the UK, but I'm actually considering getting some Remo like O-rings or whatever you call them. Because they basically do the same job. But that sort of sound as well. Again, it's nothing like out of the ordinary, but I've never been like overly into like dampening drums.
No.
Apart from obviously getting like the fat snare drum and stuff like that. But that sort of thing, and like adding like a little sort of stacky, jingly thing to sort of play. You know, Chris Dave has always got like an extra hi-hat over here that he controls, and you know, he's kind of doing like the step pattern in the left foot, but he's kind of playing the main hi-hat. That sort of stuff I'm really into because it kind of frees you up a little bit.
Yeah.
And just the way that those guys play, and also I'll do this as my last thing, but like I'm horrendous for just constantly rim shotting, like just constantly. I'm not as in like a burying it, but just like my snare drum sound is a rim shot.
Yeah.
Just playing like in the middle of the head and just sort of like not ghost notes, but just get that sort of dynamic of da 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 da, that sort of dynamic. And move the mic then. That dynamic I've never really explored, and a lot of those players and stuff in that sort of music is very much just grooves and beats where it's just super minimal because they're essentially like they're trying to replicate like a drum machine to some degree.
Yeah.
Where it's just like taps, So trying to get that has been somewhere where I was like, actually, I want to really, really kind of dive deep and explore that a little bit and educate myself a little bit more on that and just kind of not change my sound, but like tweak it a little bit and kind of lean more in that sort of side.
No, I agree, man. Yeah, so, it's I think being more open to everything, but feeling more comfortable with what you want your stuff to sound like is great.
So that album, as Robert Glasper, Black Radio 3 is great. All three Black Radio albums I highly recommend. There's some different drummers on those. Black Radio 1's great. That's got Chris Dave on. Black Radio 2 has got a guy called Mark Kohlenberg, who's really, really good. And then Black Radio 3, I think it's got a combination of a few people. I think Chris Dave's on it again. But then Robert Glasper and a few other people did a record in lockdown, I think it was, or during, or just before, for a project called... So the album's called... the band is called R&R equals now, and it means reflect and respond equals now.
Right.
I can't remember the name of the title of the album, but it's got like a pinkish cover with them all on it. And yeah, I've just been obsessed with it at the moment.
All right.
It's super cool, so I highly recommend it.
Yeah, man, I'll dig some of that stuff out. I like the Glasper stuff as well. It's cool.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, cool. Great.
There we go.
Well, there's some
inspirations.
Yeah, we've got some inspiration. If anyone's got, we'll put a post out when this goes live on Instagram when the audio version goes live. Please kind of drop us a note or DM us or comment. Please comment. That would be great because your comments will push out our stuff to other people and get hopefully a few more drummers or musicians or anyone who's interested aware of us and get them listening as well. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, which albums out there do you like the sound of the drums on? And I think that's the different things. Like this is a great playing as opposed to great sound. It's a different thing, isn't it? Maybe there's some drummers out there, or you've got albums that have inspired your direction to start with. Maybe you've moved direction, but the stuff that you wanted to kind of sound like when you were kind of getting to grips with the drums, we'd love to hear it.
100%.
Yeah, so yeah, drop us a line or comment on that. It'd be great. If you want to see the thing that Harry held up near the beginning of the episode, which is top secret unless you go to YouTube, so please find us on YouTube. Thank you for watching. This will be episode 45, and that'll be the fifth episode on there.
Fifth episode on YouTube, yeah.
And it'll stand out like a sore thumb because there's only 2 of us on it,
Yeah.
not 3 of us.
Yeah, well.
But yeah, please find us on there. Please subscribe and like and press the bell button and all the rest of it, and comment on there by all means the stuff you've done. And if you found this super inspiring and it's been a great chat, and you've been shouting at however you're listening to this, please get involved. It's called Count Us In for a reason. But if you'd like to buy us a coffee to show us your appreciation, you can do so at buy me a coffee /Count Us In podcast. I think I've done all the things. I've done the Count Us In. I've done the Instagram at Count Us In podcast. There you go. All the plugs. The YouTube thing. So yeah, let us know how you got on. And next time you hear from us, I think there'll be 3 of us. We're not sure. It should be 3 of us, I think. We don't. Yeah. Well, it might be 2 of us. We don't know which 2.
Actually, that is a good point.
Yeah. We'll check.
There might not be, actually. I don't think Jay's actually back until that day.
Unless Jay decides he likes China, or maybe China likes Jay, and they don't let him leave. But
we'll let you know.
Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed listening to this, Jamie. I'm assuming you're going to listen to this one
on the flight back, surely.
On the flight back. So let us know what you thought, Jamie. I'm sure you'll DM us, and maybe we'll have a quick. Next time Jamie is about, maybe he can give us a quick rundown of albums he likes, so he's not missed out.
Yeah, we can get him to do a socials post, and he
can do the socials post. There you go. Got a job. He's not here to volunteer. We'll give it. Always good to talk to you, Harry. Cheers,
thanks, mate. That was good fun.
Good stuff. Take care, everyone. See you later.
Yeah, cheers all.
Bye.